Myung-sik never looked at her. 2 years of walking past his cleaning woman without seeing her face, learning her name, acknowledging she existed beyond the floor she mopped and the trash she emptied. But tonight, she's bursting into his meeting, the most important meeting of his career, chest heaving, eyes wild, voice shaking. "Sir, you can't sign that." His childhood friend and assistant stands frozen. The room goes silent, because whatever the invisible woman is about to reveal, whatever she knows, whatever she's risking her job to say, it's serious enough to make a powerful man look terrified. And Myung-sik realizes maybe he should have been paying attention all along. Ever accidentally overheard something you really weren't supposed to hear? Something that made you realize you know a dangerous secret. That's where Daphne is right now. She's a cleaning woman who heard something 2 nights ago. Something about her CEO. Something that could destroy him if he doesn't know about it. Now she has to decide. Stay invisible and let it happen, or risk everything to tell him the truth. What would you do with information that could save someone but might destroy your own life? Let me know and subscribe, because Daphne just made her choice. "Sir, don't sign it!" The doors to the conference room flew open, and Myung-sik's hand froze halfway to the document. His head snapped up, fury already building in his chest. Standing in the doorway was Daphne, the cleaning woman who worked the night shifts in his building. Her dark skin gleamed with sweat, her chest rising and falling like she'd run up all 30 floors instead of taking the elevator. "Are you okay? Who do you think you are to say that?" Myung-sik's voice came out cold and sharp, the kind of tone that made grown men flinch. Around the table, 5 executives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. His childhood friend and personal assistant, Do-hyun, stood beside him with the contract, looking equally stunned. Daphne didn't back down. Her hands clutched her phone so tightly, her knuckles looked pale against her brown skin. "That signature, it's fake. I have proof." Myung-sik laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're the help. You clean toilets and empty trash bins. What could you possibly know about my business documents?" "I know what I heard," she said, her voice shaking now but still firm. "And I recorded it." The room went completely silent. Do-hyun's face had gone pale, which was strange because Do-hyun never got nervous. They'd grown up together in the streets of Busan, built this empire from nothing. If anyone deserved Myung-sik's trust, it was him. Recorded what exactly? Myung-sik leaned back in his chair, studying Daphne like she was an insect he couldn't quite identify. She wore the same navy blue cleaning uniform she always did, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. He'd passed her in hallways 100 times and never really looked at her. Just another employee, invisible. Daphne's thumb moved across her phone screen. 2 nights ago, I was cleaning the executive floor. The lights were off in Mr. Do-hyun's office, but I heard voices. He was on a video call. "So you eavesdropped?" Myung-sik's tone dripped with contempt. "That's grounds for immediate termination." "Maybe." She swallowed hard. "But you'll want to hear this before you fire me." Do-hyun finally found his voice. "Myung-sik, this is ridiculous. She's obviously trying to cause trouble. Let me escort her out." "No." Myung-sik held up one hand, still watching Daphne. Something in her eyes bothered him. She looked terrified. Sure, but also determined. Like she actually believed what she was saying. "Play it." Daphne's fingers trembled as she tapped her phone. A woman's voice filled the room first, tinny through the small speaker, but clear enough. "Baby, are you sure this will work? What if he notices?" Then Do-hyun's voice, unmistakable. "He won't notice anything. I've been practicing his signature for months. It's perfect. Once he signs off on this transfer tomorrow, the company assets will move through 3 shell corporations. By the time anyone realizes what happened, we'll be on a plane to California. The woman laughed. I can't wait to be Mrs. Choi. Just a little longer, and we can start our new life. No more pretending. No more hiding. I know, Jinri. Just one more day. I've spent 20 years playing the loyal friend. But after tomorrow, we'll have enough money to live like royalty. And Myung-sik will have nothing. The recording ended. Myung-sik stared at the conference table, his mind working through what he'd just heard. Around him, the executives looked between him and Do-hyun, confused and alarmed. Do-hyun had gone completely white now, his mouth opening and closing without sound. That's, Do-hyun finally managed. That's fake. She edited it somehow. Myung-sik, you can't actually believe Jinri. Myung-sik spoke the name quietly, testing it. That's your fiancé's name, isn't it? The one you told me about 3 months ago when you asked for time off to visit your dying aunt in Daegu. Do-hyun's silence was answer enough. Myung-sik stood slowly, and everyone in the room seemed to hold their breath. He picked up the document he'd almost signed, studying the signature line. His own signature, supposedly. He'd signed hundreds of documents just like this, trusting Do-hyun to prepare them correctly, trusting him with everything. Get out, Myung-sik said softly. Myung-sik, please, let me explain. Get out! The words exploded from him, echoing off the glass walls. Take your things and leave this building. If you're still here in 10 minutes, I'll have security throw you onto the street. Do-hyun opened his mouth, closed it, then grabbed his briefcase and practically ran from the room. The executives followed quickly, sensing this was not a meeting they wanted to be part of anymore. Soon, only Myung-sik and Daphne remained. Daphne still stood by the door, looking unsure now that the confrontation was over. She started backing toward the exit. I'll just go back to work. Wait. Myung-sik rubbed his temples, feeling the beginnings of a headache. Why did you do that? You could have minded your business. Probably should have, considering. Considering you've never treated me like a person? Daphne finished his sentence, and there was an edge to her voice now. Yeah, I know. You've walked past me every night for 2 years and never once looked at me. Not really. He had no answer for that because it was true. So why help me? He asked. Daphne shifted her weight from foot to foot, clearly uncomfortable. Because it wasn't right. What they were planning. And maybe you're not always nice, but you pay fair wages. Better than most places I've worked. My daughter has health insurance because of this job. My son can go to a decent school. So when I heard what they wanted to, she shrugged. I couldn't just let it happen. Myung-sik studied her properly for the first time. She was younger than he'd thought, probably close to his own age of 32. Pretty in an understated way. She had scars on her hands from years of hard work, and her eyes had the kind of tiredness that came from doing too much with too little. You have children? The question came out before he could stop it. Twins. They're 8. A small smile crossed her face when she mentioned them. Dakota Del and Chinonso. They're the reason I work nights. Pay is higher, and I can see them off to school in the mornings before I sleep. Myung-sik nodded slowly, processing this information. All this time, this woman had been working in his building, supporting 2 children alone, and he'd never even bothered to learn her name until today. The realization sat uncomfortably in his chest. The document you saved me from signing, he said, turning back to look at it. Do you understand what it would have done? Daphne shook her head. Not really. I don't know much about business. But from what I heard on the recording, it seemed like they wanted to steal from you. They wanted to bankrupt me. Myung-sik picked up the paper, examining it more closely now. This would have transferred ownership of my primary holdings to a shell corporation. Within a week, they could have liquidated everything I've built. The company would have collapsed. All my employees, Hundreds of people would have lost their jobs, including Daphne and her twins, he realized. She'd saved herself, too, by speaking up, though she probably hadn't thought of it that way. "I'm sorry that happened," Daphne said quietly. "Betrayal from someone close. That has to hurt." Myung-sik laughed, but it came out bitter. "Do-hyun and I grew up together. We had nothing. We slept in subway stations and stole food from convenience stores just to survive. When I started making money, I brought him with me. Gave him everything he has. And this whole time—" He stopped himself, unwilling to show more weakness in front of a stranger. But Daphne's expression had softened, and somehow that made it worse. He didn't want her pity. "You should go," he said, his voice cooling again. "Thank you for the information. There will be a bonus in your next paycheck." Daphne nodded and turned to leave. She was almost at the door when Myung-sik spoke again. "Daphne." She stopped, looking back at him with surprise. "You know my name? It's on your ID badge." A lie. He'd just learned it from his HR files, which he'd pulled up on his phone moments ago, suddenly curious about the woman who'd just saved his empire. "Take tomorrow night off. Paid. Spend it with your children." Her eyes widened. "Sir, I can't afford to miss a shift." "You'll be paid for the full night," he interrupted. "Consider it part of your bonus." She blinked rapidly, and he realized with discomfort that she was fighting tears. "Thank you." After she left, Myung-sik stood alone in the conference room for a long time, staring at the forged document in his hands. 20 years of friendship, destroyed in one recording. He should have been furious. And he was. But underneath the anger was something else. Something that felt dangerously close to grief. His phone buzzed. His head of security, confirming that Do-hyun had left the building and would not be allowed back in. Good. That was one problem handled. But now Myung-sik had to figure out how deep the betrayal went. How many other documents had Do-hyun forged? How much money had already been stolen? And who else in his organization might be compromised? The next several weeks were going to be rough. 3 weeks later, Daphne was emptying trash bins on the 23rd floor when Myung-sik appeared beside her so silently she jumped, nearly dropping the bag she was holding. "Sorry," he said, though he didn't sound particularly sorry. "I didn't mean to startle you. It's fine." Daphne pressed a hand to her chest, willing her heart to slow down. She hadn't seen much of Myung-sik since that day in the conference room. He'd been busy dealing with the aftermath of Do-hyun's betrayal, from what she'd overheard other employees saying. "Is there something you need, sir?" "I wanted to update you." He leaned against the wall, looking tired. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his usually perfect hair was slightly mussed. "We found 3 other forged documents in the company files. Do-hyun had been skimming money for at least 2 years, about 4 million won total." Daphne whistled softly. "That's a lot." "It could have been everything." Myung-sik's jaw tightened. "If you hadn't stopped me from signing that final document, I would have lost it all." "Well, I'm glad I could help." She tied off the trash bag and moved to the next office. After a moment, Myung-sik followed her, which was strange. CEOs didn't usually trail after cleaning staff during their rounds. "Your children," he said abruptly. "Dakota Del and Chinyonso. Those are Nigerian names, aren't they?" "Yoruba and Igbo, actually." Daphne glanced at him, curious why he was asking. "Their father was Igbo. I'm American, but I grew up with Nigerian neighbors who were like family to me. When my kids were born, I wanted them to have names that connected them to that culture. Names that meant something." "What do they mean?" "Dakota Della means, joy has come home. Chinyonso means, God is near." She smiled, the way she always did when talking about her twins. They live up to their names, mostly, though Dakota can be a handful sometimes. "And their father?" Myung-sik asked, then seemed to catch himself. Sorry, that's too personal. It's okay. Daphne moved to another trash bin. He died 4 years ago. Car accident. We weren't together anymore, but he was still a good dad to them. They miss him. I'm sorry. The sympathy in his voice sounded genuine, which surprised her. This was the same man who'd called her the help just weeks ago. Maybe almost losing everything had changed him a bit. Why are you really here, Mr. Lee? She asked, using his formal name. You could have sent me an email about the documents. Myung-sik was quiet for a moment. I wanted to thank you properly. Not just with money. You saved me from something that would have destroyed everything I've worked for. That deserves more than a bonus. I don't need anything special. Have dinner with me. Daphne stopped walking and stared at him. Excuse me? Dinner. He looked uncomfortable now, like he hadn't meant to say it quite so bluntly. Nothing romantic, just... I want to do something nice for you. Let me take you to a good restaurant. As a thank you. This had to be some kind of joke. Men like Myung-sik didn't have dinner with women like her. They existed in completely different worlds. She cleaned toilets and mopped floors. He ran an empire. I don't think that's a good idea, she said slowly. Why not? Because, she struggled to put it into words. Because you're my boss. Because people will talk. Because we have nothing in common and would probably sit in awkward silence the whole time. So say no. Myung-sik shrugged, but she could tell he was bothered by her response. I just thought, never mind. It was a stupid idea. He started to walk away, and Daphne felt something twist in her chest. Pride, maybe. Or stubbornness. Or just the simple fact that no one had offered to take her to a nice restaurant in 4 years, and she was tired of always saying no to everything because of fear or practicality or whatever other excuse she gave herself. Wait, she called after him. Myung-sik turned back, eyebrows raised. One dinner. But somewhere casual, okay? Not one of those fancy places where they charge $50 for 3 bites of food. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. It was small, barely there, but it transformed his whole face. I know a place. Thursday night? I can send a car for you. I'll meet you there. She wasn't about to give him her home address. Not yet, anyway. Fair enough. He pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I'll text you the details. They exchanged information. And then Myung-sik left, leaving Daphne alone with her trash bags and a growing sense that she'd just made either the best or worst decision of her life. Thursday came faster than Daphne expected. She'd told her neighbor, Mrs. Elena, that she needed help watching the twins for a few hours. Mrs. Elena had immediately started asking questions about where Daphne was going and whether there was a man involved, but Daphne had deflected. It's just a work thing, she'd said, which was technically true. You never dress up for work things, Mrs. Elena had pointed out, eyeing Daphne's nice jeans and the blouse she'd bought 3 years ago for a cousin's wedding and barely worn since. Now Daphne stood outside the restaurant Myung-sik had chosen, second-guessing everything. It wasn't fancy, thankfully. Just a small Korean barbecue place in a neighborhood she'd never visited before. Through the window, she could see families and couples gathered around tables, cooking meat over small grills. Myung-sik was already inside, sitting at a corner table. He saw her through the window and waved her in. You came, he said, when she sat down, and there was relief in his voice. You sound surprised. I thought you might change your mind. He handed her a menu. I ordered the basic set to start, but we can add more if you're hungry. Daphne studied the menu, trying to calculate prices in her head. This was more expensive than anywhere she usually ate, but not as bad as she'd feared. Still, she'd brought some emergency cash just in case. You're doing it again, Myung-sik said. Doing what? Worrying about money. He leaned back in his chair. I invited you. I'm paying. Don't argue with me about it. I wasn't going to argue. Daphne lied. She definitely had been planning to argue, maybe suggest they split the bill. But something about the firm way he said it made her think he wouldn't budge. The food arrived quickly, and soon they were cooking meat over the grill between them. It was awkward at first, both of them hyper-aware of the silence. But then Myung-sik asked about her twins, and Daphne found herself relaxing, telling him about Dakota's obsession with dinosaurs and Chinyeonso's talent for drawing. "They sound like good kids," Myung-sik said. "They are. Exhausting, but good." Daphne flipped a piece of pork belly. "Do you have any siblings?" His expression shuddered. "No. I was an only child. My parents died when I was 12. I'm sorry." "Don't be." He used his chopsticks to move meat around the grill. "That was a long time ago. Do-hyun's family took me in for a while after that. His parents were, well, they weren't great people, honestly. But they gave me a place to sleep. I thought that meant Do-hyun and I were family. Brothers, you know? Turns out loyalty doesn't mean much when there's money involved." The bitterness in his voice made Daphne's chest ache. She knew what betrayal felt like. Her ex-husband had cheated on her repeatedly before his death, something she'd only learned about afterward when women started showing up at the funeral. "Not everyone is like that," she said quietly. "Some people are worth trusting." "Are you worth trusting?" Myung-sik asked, and there was something intense in his gaze that made her breath catch. "I like to think so," she managed. "But I guess you'll have to decide that for yourself." They ate in silence for a while after that, but it was a comfortable silence this time. When the bill came, Myung-sik paid without even looking at it, then walked Daphne to her bus stop. "You don't have to wait with me," she said. "I'll be fine. I know you will." But he stayed anyway, hands in his pockets, looking up at the night sky. "Can we do this again? Maybe not just dinner. Maybe something else." "Like what?" Daphne asked, genuinely curious what a man like him did for fun. "I don't know. What do you like to do?" "Besides work and take care of my kids," she laughed. "I don't really have hobbies. There's never time." "Then we'll find time," Myung-sik said, and it sounded almost like a promise. The bus appeared around the corner, and Daphne felt a strange reluctance to leave. "Thank you for dinner. It was nice." Just nice. There was a teasing note in his voice she'd never heard before. "It was lovely," she amended, smiling. "Really?" As the bus pulled away, she looked back through the window and saw him still standing there, watching her leave. And something warm bloomed in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. Maybe. 2 days later, Daphne arrived at work to find a package waiting for her in the staff locker room. Inside was a cookbook focused on simple, quick meals and a note in neat handwriting. "Thought this might help with the twins." "Sukos." She stared at the gift for a long moment, warmth spreading through her chest. It was thoughtful in a way she hadn't expected. Most men she'd known would have bought jewelry or flowers, things that said more about what they wanted to give than what she might actually need. But Myung-sik had somehow figured out that her life revolved around feeding 2 hungry 8-year-olds with limited time and money. The next week, he appeared at her workstation again, this time with a different proposal. "There's a children's museum downtown," he said without preamble. "I was thinking, maybe I could take you and the twins this weekend, if you're free." Daphne set down her cleaning supplies. "You want to spend your Saturday at a children's museum?" Is that strange? It's very strange. She studied his face, looking for signs of some hidden agenda, but found only genuine interest. "Why?" "Because you said you never have time for hobbies, and because your kids deserve a fun day out." He shifted his weight, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "And maybe because I want to meet them." That last part caught her off guard. "You want to meet my children?" "If that's okay with you." Daphne thought about it. On one hand, this was moving fast. On the other hand, they weren't dating or anything. Were they? It was just gratitude, right? A powerful man repaying a debt to someone who'd helped him. Except it didn't feel like that anymore. The way he looked at her, the way he remembered small details about her life, it felt like something else entirely. "Okay," she heard herself say, "Saturday afternoon. But I'm warning you now, 8-year-olds are loud and full of energy. There's no calm with those two." Myung-sik smiled, that small expression that made him look younger and less intimidating. "I think I can handle it." Saturday arrived with perfect weather, and Myung-sik picked them up in a car that made Dakota and Chinonso's eyes go wide. "Mama, is he rich?" Dakota whispered loudly as they climbed into the back seat. "Dakota, that's rude," Daphne hissed, but Myung-sik just laughed. "It's okay. Yes, I have some money. But today is just about having fun, all right?" The twins warmed up to him quickly, especially when he proved willing to crawl through the museum's tunnel exhibits and participate in the interactive science demonstrations. Daphne watched from the sidelines, her heart doing complicated things as she observed this powerful, usually cold man crouching down to examine a beetle with Chinonso, or pretending to be scared when Dakota roared like a dinosaur. "He's nice," Chinonso said quietly, appearing at Daphne's side while Dakota and Myung-sik were occupied with a pulley system. "Do you like him?" "He's a friend," Daphne said carefully. "But do you like him?" Chinonso pressed, with the blunt persistence only an 8-year-old could manage. Daphne faltered. Did she? The truth was becoming harder to ignore. She looked forward to seeing Myung-sik. She thought about him when she should have been thinking about other things. And watching him now, laughing as Dakota tried to lift him with a lever, made something in her chest squeeze tight. "Maybe," she finally admitted. "A little bit." Chinonso grinned and ran back to join the others, leaving Daphne with her thoughts. Later, at a small restaurant near the museum, the twins chattered about everything they'd seen while demolishing their meals. Myung-sik mostly listened, asking questions here and there, and Daphne marveled at how patient he was, how present. "Thank you," she said quietly while the twins were distracted by their desserts. "This was really kind of you." "I enjoyed it," Myung-sik replied, and he sounded surprised by that fact. "Your kids are great. You're doing a good job with them." "I'm trying." She stirred her tea. "It's hard sometimes doing it alone, but they make it worth it." "You're stronger than you think." His hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching hers. "I hope you know that." Before Daphne could respond, Dakota knocked over his water glass, and the moment dissolved into chaos as they mopped up the spill. But the feeling lingered, warm and unsettling, all the way home. Over the next few weeks, Myung-sik became a regular presence in their lives. He'd show up with small gifts for the twins. Nothing extravagant, but always thoughtful. A set of colored pencils for Chinonso, a book about dinosaurs for Dakota. He started joining them for weekend outings, and Daphne found herself looking forward to Saturdays in a way she hadn't in years. But she was also careful not to let herself fall too hard. Men like Myung-sik didn't end up with women like her. She knew that. She'd learned it the hard way before. One evening, after he'd dropped them off at home, Mrs. Elena cornered Daphne in the hallway. "That man is in love with you," the older woman said bluntly. "He's not." "We're just friends," Daphne protested. "Friends don't look at each other the way you two do." Mrs. Elena patted her arm. "But be careful, dear. Men from that world, they have complications." Daphne didn't know how right Mrs. Elena would turn out to be until 2 weeks later, when everything fell apart. She was at work, cleaning the executive floor, when she heard voices coming from the conference room. She should have walked past, should have minded her own business, but one of the voices sounded like Myung-sik, and without thinking, she paused. "Mother, I already told you I'm not interested in arranged marriage." "You're 32 years old, Myung-sik." An older woman's voice, sharp with impatience. "It's time you settled down properly. Hye-jin comes from a good family, and she's willing to overlook your background." "How generous of her," Myung-sik said dryly. "Don't be flippant. I've already told the Kang family you'll meet with her next week. Consider it an obligation." "I have obligations to my company, Mother, not to your social climbing." "This is about the company. Marriage to Hye-jin would give you connections you desperately need, especially after that scandal with Do-hyun." "People are talking, Myung-sik. They're questioning your judgment. A good marriage would stabilize things." Silence. Then Myung-sik sighed. "Fine. One meeting. But I'm not promising anything. That's all I ask." Daphne backed away from the door, her heart hammering. An arranged marriage. Meeting with some woman named Hye-jin. And Myung-sik hadn't said no, not really. He'd agreed to meet her. She felt stupid suddenly. All those weekends, those small gifts, the way he looked at her. She'd let herself believe it meant something. But of course it didn't. Men like Myung-sik married women from good families with connections and money. They didn't marry cleaning women with 2 kids and more debt than savings. The next Saturday, when Myung-sik called to make plans, Daphne made an excuse about the twins being sick. The Saturday after that, she claimed she had to work extra shifts. By the 3rd week, he stopped calling. Daphne threw herself into work, trying to forget about Myung-sik and the way his absence left a hollow ache in her chest. The twins asked about him constantly, wondering why their new friend had disappeared, and each question felt like a knife twisting deeper. "I miss Mr. Lee," Chin-yeon-so said one morning while Daphne packed their school lunches. "He promised to take me to the art supply store to get real canvas." "I'm sure he's just busy, baby," Daphne replied, keeping her voice steady. "Important people have lots of responsibilities." "But he said he'd come back," Dakota chimed in, his face scrunched with confusion. "Did we do something wrong?" "No, of course not." Daphne pulled both twins into a hug. "You did nothing wrong. Sometimes grown-up friendships just change." She hated lying to them, hated even more that she was punishing them for her own hurt feelings. But what else could she do? Tell them that she'd been foolish enough to develop feelings for a man who was probably planning a wedding to someone more suitable right now. 3 weeks after she'd started avoiding him, Daphne was mopping the lobby floor at 2 in the morning when the elevator doors opened and Myung-sik stepped out. She hadn't seen him in person since that day she'd overheard his mother, and the sight of him made her chest tighten painfully. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, his tie was loose, and those dark circles under his eyes had gotten worse. "You've been avoiding me," he said without greeting. "I've been busy." Daphne kept mopping, not trusting herself to look at him directly. "For 3 weeks? You can't even answer my calls?" "Like I said, I've been busy." "Stop lying." His voice cracked slightly. "Just tell me what I did wrong. Tell me why you suddenly decided I'm not worth your time anymore." That made her look up, anger flashing through her. "Not worth my time. That's rich coming from you." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I heard you, okay?" The words burst out before she could stop them. 3 weeks ago, I heard you talking to your mother about meeting some woman named Hye-jin, about how marriage to her would be good for your image and your company connections. Myung-sik's expression shifted from confusion to understanding to something that looked like panic. "You heard that conversation?" "Yes. And before you try to explain it away, don't bother. I get it. I understand how your world works." Daphne gripped the mop handle tighter. "Men like you don't end up with women like me. You have dinners with us and play with our kids, and make us feel special. But at the end of the day, you marry someone appropriate. Daphne, I'm not angry, she continued, surprised to find it was mostly true. I'm just disappointed in myself. I knew better than to let you get close. I knew better than to let my kids get attached. But I did it anyway, and now they ask about you every day, and I don't know what to tell them. Tell them I'm sorry. Myung-sik moved closer, his eyes pleading. Tell them I messed up. Tell them I should have told you about my mother's plans before you found out that way. So you're really going to meet her? This Hye-jin woman? I already did. He ran a hand through his hair. 2 weeks ago, my mother ambushed me with it, arranged the whole thing before I could object. But Daphne, I need you to understand something. I told Hye-jin I wasn't interested. I told my mother to stop matchmaking. I told them both that I'm already seeing someone. Daphne's breath caught. You did? Because I am seeing someone. At least, I thought I was until she started avoiding me. He took another step forward. I should have told you about the meeting before it happened. I should have been honest about the pressure my mother puts on me. But I didn't because telling you would have made it real, would have forced us to talk about what this is between us. What is it? Daphne asked quietly. Between us? I don't know. The honesty in his voice was almost painful. I've never felt like this before. Never wanted to spend every free moment with someone. Never missed someone so much it hurt when they disappeared from my life. Is that how it's supposed to feel? Despite everything, Daphne felt herself softening. Sometimes, yeah, that's how it feels. Then tell me how to fix this. Myung-sik stopped just a foot away from her now. Tell me what I need to do to make things right, and I'll do it. Daphne studied his face, seeing the exhaustion there, the genuine distress. You can't just wave money around to fix this one. This is about trust, about honesty. I know. So from now on, no more secrets. No more hearing about your life from eavesdropping, or rumors, or your mother's plans. If something's going on, you tell me directly. Can do that. And you need to understand. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I come with complications. 2 kids, a job that doesn't pay well. No fancy family connections or money or any of the things your mother probably wants for you. If you're going to be in my life, you're going to be in theirs too. And that means you can't just walk away when things get hard. I don't want to walk away, Myung-sik said firmly. I want to figure this out with you. Whatever this is. Daphne wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that maybe, despite all logic and experience, this could actually work. But fear held her back, the memory of past disappointments warning her to be careful. The twins miss you, she finally said. They keep asking when you're coming back. And you? His voice was soft. Do you miss me? She should lie, should protect herself. But looking into his eyes, she couldn't manage it. Yeah, I missed you. Something in his expression lightened, like a weight, lifting. Can I see you tomorrow? All 3 of you? Please. Daphne hesitated only a moment before nodding. Saturday afternoon, the park near our apartment. But Myung-sik, if you're going to do this, be sure. Because if you hurt my kids, if you let them get attached, and then disappear again. I won't, he interrupted. I promise you, I won't. Saturday afternoon found them at the park, the twins racing ahead to the playground, while Myung-sik and Daphne walked more slowly behind them. They're fast, he observed, watching Dakota climb the jungle gym with impressive speed. They have too much energy for one parent to handle sometimes, Daphne admitted, but I wouldn't change them for anything. They settled on a bench with a view of both children, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough to give the kids some independence, For a while, they just watched in comfortable silence. "My mother called again yesterday," Myung-sik said eventually. "She's not happy about me, refusing Hye-jin. Is she going to keep pushing? Probably." He leaned back, tilting his face toward the sun. "But I told her I'm not interested in arranged marriage, that I want to make my own choices about my life." "And what did she say to that?" "That I'm being foolish, that I'm letting emotion cloud my judgment." A bitter smile crossed his face. "Maybe she's right. Maybe this is foolish." "Is that what you think?" Daphne asked quietly. He turned to look at her, and the intensity in his gaze made her heart skip. "I think the foolish thing would be letting you go because I'm scared. I think the foolish thing would be choosing duty over whatever this could become." Before Daphne could respond, Dakota came running over, Chinonso right behind him. Mr. Lee, watch this!" Dakota proceeded to demonstrate an elaborate handstand that ended with him tumbling into the grass, laughing. "Very impressive," Myung-sik said seriously. "They'll maybe work on the landing." Chinonso climbed onto the bench between them. "Mama said you were busy. Were you really busy, or did you just not want to see us anymore?" The blunt question made both adults freeze. Daphne started to intervene, but Myung-sik spoke first. "I was dealing with some complicated things," he told Chinonso honestly. "But I should have made time for you anyway. I'm sorry I disappeared like that." "It's okay." Chinonso leaned against him with the easy trust of children. "Mama gets really busy sometimes too. We understand." Dakota abandoned his handstands to join them, and soon both twins were talking over each other, filling Myung-sik in on everything he'd missed in the past 3 weeks. Daphne watched them, her heart full and aching at the same time. This could work, she thought. Maybe, if they were both willing to try. A month passed, and what had started as tentative rebuilding grew into something solid. Myung-sik became a fixture in their lives again, but this time things felt different. More intentional. He kept his promise about transparency, telling Daphne about every meeting with his mother, every business complication, every piece of his life that might affect their growing relationship. In return, Daphne let him in. Really in. She told him about her ex-husband's infidelities, about the shame and hurt that had followed her for years, about the nights she cried into her pillow after her kids were asleep, wondering if she'd ever be enough for anyone, about her fears of not being able to provide for Dakota and Chinonso the way they deserved. "You're more than enough," Myung-sik told her one evening after the twins had gone to bed. They were sitting on her small apartment balcony, the city lights spread out below them. For them. For me. Just more than enough. Daphne wanted to believe him, and slowly, day by day, she was learning to. Myung-sik started helping with small things that made a huge difference in her life. He'd show up on Wednesday evenings to watch the twins, so Daphne could sleep before her night shift. He fixed her broken washing machine without being asked. When Dakota got sick and needed to see a specialist, Myung-sik quietly arranged for the appointment and made sure Daphne's insurance covered everything. "You don't have to do all this," she'd protested. "I want to," he'd replied simply. "Let me help. Please." His mother continued to disapprove, but Myung-sik held firm. He stopped attending her matchmaking dinners and started bringing Daphne to company events instead. The first time she walked into a corporate function on his arm, wearing a dress he'd had delivered to her apartment, the stares had been intense. "They're all wondering what you're doing with me," Daphne had whispered, acutely aware of being the only black woman in a room full of Korean elite. "They're wondering how I got lucky enough to have you agree to come with me," Myung-sik had corrected, his hand firm on her back. "Ignore them. You belong here just as much as anyone." But belonging was complicated. Daphne couldn't shake the feeling that she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. even as things between her and Myung-sik deepened, even as her kids grew more attached to him. Part of her waited for the other shoe to drop. It happened on a Tuesday evening. Myung-sik was supposed to meet them for dinner, but he called at the last minute to cancel. "I'm sorry," he said, and he sounded rushed. "Something came up at work. I'll make it up to you this weekend, I promise." "It's fine," Daphne said, trying to ignore the disappointment in the twins' faces. "We understand." But when she got to work that night, she saw Myung-sik's car still in the parking garage. Odd, since he'd said he had an emergency meeting across town. Out of curiosity more than suspicion, she took the elevator up to his floor. His office door was open, and through it, Daphne could see him standing close to a beautiful woman in an expensive business suit. Too close. The woman laughed at something he said, touching his arm in a way that made Daphne's stomach drop. This was it. The moment she'd been bracing for. The moment when she'd discovered this had all been temporary. Just a diversion for a rich man looking for something different before returning to his real life. She started to turn away, but Myung-sik must have sensed movement because his head snapped up. His eyes widened when he saw her. "Daphne, wait." But she was already walking away, heading for the stairs because she couldn't bear to wait for the elevator. She made it 3 floors down before he caught up with her. "Please, just stop and let me explain," he panted. "Explain what?" Daphne kept walking. "That I'm an idiot for thinking this could actually work? That I should have trusted my instincts and stayed away from you?" "That was Ji-won, my lawyer." Myung-sik grabbed her arm gently, making her stop. "She was helping me with something important." "At 8 at night? Looking like that?" "Looking like what? Professional?" He stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Daphne, I swear to you, nothing is going on with Ji-won. She was here late because I asked her to draft something for me. Something I wanted to surprise you with." "What kind of surprise requires you to stand that close to another woman?" "The kind where I'm setting up a trust fund for Dakota and Chinonso." The words came out in a rush. "For their education. For their future." Ji-won was showing me the documents on her tablet, and I was reading over her shoulder. That's all it was. Daphne stared at him, the anger draining away and leaving confusion in its wake. "You're... what?" "Setting up trust funds. For the twins." He looked nervous now, uncertain in a way she rarely saw. "I know I should have talked to you about it first, but I wanted it to be a surprise. I wanted to give them something that would guarantee their future, no matter what happens." "Myung-sik," she didn't know what to say. It was too much, too generous, too everything. "Is it okay?" he asked. "I know it's a lot, and maybe you think it's too soon or too presumptuous, but I care about them, about all of you, and I want to make sure they have opportunities, that they can go to any university they want, that money never holds them back from their dreams." Daphne felt tears building behind her eyes. "You really want to do this? For my kids?" "They're not just your kids anymore," Myung-sik said quietly. I know I'm not their father. I would never try to replace him. But they matter to me. You all matter to me. More than I thought anyone could." The tears spilled over then, and Daphne let Myung-sik pull her into his arms. They stood like that in the stairwell, holding each other while she cried into his shirt, and he rubbed circles on her back. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I jumped to conclusions. I'm so used to things falling apart that I keep waiting for it to happen with us. It's not going to fall apart." His voice was firm. "Not if I have anything to say about it. I'm in this, Daphne, all the way in. You need to believe that." "I'm trying," she admitted. "It's just hard sometimes." "I know." He pulled back enough to look at her face, gently wiping away her tears with his thumbs. "But we'll figure it out together, okay? No more secrets. No more misunderstandings. Just honesty, even when it's difficult. Daphne nodded, something loosening in her chest. Okay. Together. 2 weeks later, Myung-sik took her to a quiet restaurant overlooking the Han River. This time, it was just the two of them, the twins spending the night with Mrs. Elena. I have something for you, he said after they'd finished eating. He pulled out a small box, and Daphne's heart jumped into her throat until she saw it was too big to be a ring box. Inside was a key. It's to my apartment, Myung-sik explained. I'm not asking you to move in or anything like that. But I want you to have it. I want you to feel like you can come and go as you please, that you have a place in my space the same way I have a place in yours. Daphne picked up the key, turning it over in her fingers. It was a simple thing, but the gesture behind it wasn't simple at all. It was trust. It was commitment. It was him saying that she belonged in his world, not just as a visitor, but as someone permanent. Thank you, she said softly. This means a lot. There's something else. Myung-sik pulled out a folder. I've been thinking about your situation at work, the night shifts, the cleaning. You're too talented to be limited to that forever. I'm not really talented at anything except scrubbing floors and keeping my kids alive, Daphne said, trying for humor, but not quite managing it. That's not true. You have an eye for detail that's incredible. You notice things other people miss. That's how you saved my company, remember? He pushed the folder toward her. I want to offer you a position, daytime hours, better pay, full benefits. You'd be working in facilities management, overseeing the cleaning and maintenance teams instead of doing it yourself. Daphne opened the folder, scanning the job description and salary listing. The number made her head spin. This is, Myung-sik, this is too much. It's what the position is worth, what you're worth. He leaned forward. You don't have to decide right now. Think about it. Talk to the twins about it. But I want you to know the option is there. I want you to have choices, not just obligations. Daphne closed the folder, her heart full. You keep doing things like this, and I might start thinking you're serious about me. I am serious about you. His hand covered hers on the table. More serious than I've ever been about anyone. I know it's fast, and I know it's complicated, but I can't pretend I don't feel this way anymore. I can't pretend you're not the first person I think about in the morning, and the last person I think about at night. I can't pretend my life doesn't feel better, more complete, with you in it. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Daphne knew she should probably play it cool, should protect herself a little longer. But looking at Myung-sik's face, seeing the vulnerability there, she couldn't manage it. I feel the same way, she admitted, and it terrifies me. Me too, he smiled, squeezing her hand. But maybe that's okay. Maybe being terrified together is better than being safe and alone. Maybe, Daphne agreed, squeezing back. Probably definitely, actually. 3 months later, Daphne stood in Myung-sik's apartment. Her apartment now too, she supposed, since she'd accepted his key and used it regularly. She was setting up dinner while he helped the twins with their homework at the dining table, and the scene was so domestic, it made her chest ache with something that felt dangerously close to complete happiness. Things weren't perfect. Myung-sik's mother still made her disapproval clear at every opportunity. Some of his business associates still looked at Daphne like she didn't belong. And there were days when the cultural differences between them felt vast and unbridgeable. But they were making it work. Slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. Daphne had taken the job in facilities management, and it turned out Myung-sik was right. She was good at it. She had a knack for organizing systems and managing people, for seeing inefficiencies and fixing them. Her team respected her, and she'd already implemented several changes that saved the company money while improving working conditions. The twins had adjusted to having Myung-sik around constantly. He attended their school events, helped with homework, and let them teach him about dinosaurs and art with endless patience. He wasn't trying to replace their father, but he was carving out his own space in their lives, and they loved him for it. "Mama, Mr. Lee says we can get a dog," Dakota announced, looking up from his math worksheet. Daphne shot Myung-sik a look. "Mr. Lee said that, did he?" "I said we could discuss the possibility of perhaps considering getting a dog at some point in the distant future," Myung-sik corrected with a grin. "That's not what you said," Chinonso chimed in. "You said yes." "I've been outvoted," Myung-sik told Daphne, not looking particularly sorry about it. She rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. This was her life now. Chaotic and messy and full of love she'd never expected to find. It still scared her sometimes, the intensity of what she felt for this man who'd entered her world so unexpectedly. But the fear was getting smaller, crowded out by trust and joy, and the simple comfort of knowing she didn't have to face things alone anymore. After dinner, after the twins were in bed, Myung-sik pulled Daphne out onto the balcony of his apartment. The city sprawled below them, millions of lights in the darkness. "I have something to tell you," said, and the seriousness in his tone made Daphne's stomach clench. "If this is bad news, maybe save it for tomorrow," she joked weakly. "It's not bad news. At least, I hope it isn't." He took her hands in his. "My mother called today. She wants to meet with you, officially, with the twins." Daphne's eyes widened. "Really? But she hates me." "She doesn't hate you. She's wary, protective, worried I'm making a mistake." He squeezed her hands. "But I told her that you're not going anywhere, that I'm committed to this, to us, and she needs to accept that. So she wants to meet you properly, get to know the woman her son is serious about." "And by serious, you mean?" "I mean I'm in love with you." The words came out simple and direct, no hesitation. "I love you, Daphne. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you make me want to be better. I love how you protect your kids fiercely while still teaching them to be open and trusting. I love that you saw me at my worst, when I was arrogant and dismissive, and you still chose to help me. I love everything about you, and I want everyone to know it." Daphne felt tears building again, the good kind this time. "I love you too. I have for a while now, but I was afraid to say it." "Don't be afraid." He pulled her closer. "Not with me. Never with me." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars, and Daphne let herself feel it fully. The hope, the joy, the terrifying, wonderful reality of being in love with someone who loved her back. The meeting with Myung-sik's mother was scheduled for the following Sunday. Daphne spent the entire week nervous, trying on different outfits and making the twins practice their manners until they complained. "Mama, we already know how to be polite," Chinonso said patiently. "I know, baby. But this is important. Mr. Lee's mother she's particular." "Is she mean?" Dakota asked, with the bluntness of 8-year-olds everywhere. "No, not mean, just traditional. She has certain ideas about how things should be." What Daphne didn't say was that she was terrified Myung-sik's mother would look at her and see everything she saw in herself sometimes. Not enough, not suitable, not worthy of her son. But Myung-sik had been adamant that this would go well, that his mother just needed time to see what he saw. Sunday arrived too quickly. They met at an upscale cafe in Gangnam, the kind of place where Daphne felt immediately out of place, despite her nice dress and careful makeup. Myung-sik's mother was already there when they arrived, sitting perfectly straight in a designer suit that probably cost more than Daphne's monthly rent used to cost. "Mother," Myung-sik said, bowing slightly. This is Daphne, and these are her children, Dakota Dele and Chinonso. The twins, bless them, bowed just as Myung-sik had taught them. It's nice to meet you, ma'am, they said in unison. Something flickered in his mother's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or approval. Please sit. The conversation started stiffly, his mother asking polite but pointed questions about Daphne's background, her family, her education. Daphne answered honestly, refusing to pretend to be something she wasn't. Yes, she'd grown up poor. No, she didn't have a college degree. Yes, she'd worked cleaning jobs for years. These were facts, not things to be ashamed of. But then Chinonso, sweet Chinonso, pulled out the drawing he'd made special for this meeting. It showed their whole family, Daphne, the twins, and Myung-sik, all holding hands under a rainbow. I made this for you, Chinonso said shyly, offering it to Myung-sik's mother. Because you're part of our family now too. For a long moment, his mother just stared at the drawing. Then, to everyone's surprise, her eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she said quietly. This is very kind. The ice thawed after that. His mother asked the twins about school and their interests, and they chattered easily about dinosaurs and art. She asked Daphne about her new job and seemed genuinely interested in how the facilities management department functioned. By the end of lunch, they were still not exactly warm, but the hostility was gone. You make my son happy, his mother said as they were preparing to leave. It wasn't quite an endorsement, but it wasn't a rejection either. I try, Daphne replied. He makes me happy too. That's all I can really ask for then, isn't it? She touched Chinonso's head gently. Perhaps you could visit again sometime. Both of you. I'd like to get to know you better. In the car afterward, Myung-sik let out a huge breath. That went better than I expected. Your mother is actually nice when she's not worried about protecting you, Daphne observed. She lost my father young. I'm all she has left. I think she's just scared of losing me too, in a different way. He reached over to take Daphne's hand. But she'll learn that loving you doesn't mean I love her less. There's room for everyone. 6 months later, Myung-sik proposed. Not with fireworks or elaborate displays, but on a quiet Tuesday evening after the twins had gone to bed, in Daphne's tiny apartment that they'd kept, even though they spent most nights at his place. I know it's fast, he said, kneeling in her cramped living room, and I know we still have things to figure out. But I don't want to wait anymore. I want to build a life with you officially. I want Dakota and Chinonso to know they're my family too, legally and completely. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. So, will you marry me? The ring was beautiful, but not ostentatious. A simple band with 3 small diamonds. Daphne looked at it, then at Myung-sik's hopeful face, then at the life they'd built together from such an unlikely beginning. Yes, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Of course, yes. When they told the twins the next morning, both kids cheered so loudly the neighbors probably heard. Dakota immediately started planning what he'd wear to the wedding, while Chinonso wanted to know if she could draw the invitations. We can figure all that out together, Myung-sik assured them. This is a family decision. Everyone gets input. And they did. The wedding, when it happened 3 months later, was a small affair with close friends and family. Myung-sik's mother attended and even smiled during the ceremony. The twins stood up with them, and when the officiant asked if anyone objected, Dakota loudly declared that he definitely did not object, making everyone laugh. At the reception, Myung-sik pulled Daphne aside for a moment alone. Remember the first day we really talked, he said, when you saved my company. You were so mad at me for interrupting your meeting, Daphne recalled with a smile. I was an arrogant fool who couldn't see what was right in front of him. He touched her face gently. Thank you for interrupting that meeting. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. Thank you for giving me a chance, even when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for becoming someone who deserves it, Daphne replied. Thank you for loving my kids like they're yours. Thank you for showing me that second chances are real. They returned to the reception hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Together. Always together. The honeymoon was supposed to be 2 weeks in Jeju Island, just the two of them, while Mrs. Elena watched the twins. They'd made it through 4 blissful days of beach walks and quiet dinners when Myung-sik's phone rang at 3 in the morning. What? Daphne mumbled, still half asleep as Myung-sik sat up abruptly. I have to go back to Seoul, he said, already pulling on clothes. There's a problem at the company. What kind of problem? His jaw was tight, the way it got when he was really worried. Someone's filed a lawsuit. They're claiming I stole intellectual property from a competitor years ago. If the claim goes through, the company could be shut down. Everything we've built. Gone. Daphne was fully awake now. But you didn't steal anything, right? No, of course not. But something in his voice made her pause. Myung-sik? He sat back down on the bed, running both hands through his hair. There was a project, about 5 years ago. Do-hyun and I were working on a new security software. He told me he'd developed it from scratch, and I believed him. But if he actually stole the base code from somewhere else, and I signed off on it, then they'd come after you, not him. Exactly. Myung-sik looked at her, and she saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. Daphne, this could destroy everything. The company, my reputation, the trust funds I set up for the twins. If I'm found guilty of corporate theft, they could seize all my assets. Daphne's mind was already working. Do-hyun, he's behind this somehow, isn't he? I don't know. Maybe. He disappeared after I fired him, and no one's seen him since. Myung-sik stood again, pacing. I have to get back to Seoul and figure this out. I'm sorry. I know we just got married. Stop apologizing and pack, Daphne interrupted. We're going back together. You're not facing this alone. But the twins will be fine with Mrs. Elena for a few more days. You need me there, and I'm going to be there. That's what marriage means. Remember? Together. They caught the first ferry back to the mainland and drove straight to Seoul. Myung-sik's lawyers were already assembled in his office when they arrived, looking grave. It's worse than we thought, Ji-won said without preamble. The company claiming theft is BK Technologies. They have documentation that their lead developer, Park Min-soo, created the base code for the security software. And they have proof that Do-hyun worked there briefly before joining your company. So Do-hyun stole it, Myung-sik said. That's what it looks like, but you signed the patents as CEO. Legally, you're responsible for verifying the originality of any intellectual property your company claims. Ji-won pushed a stack of papers across the desk. They're demanding either full ownership of the software and all profits derived from it, or 200 million won in damages. Daphne's stomach dropped. That was enough to bankrupt the company. There has to be something we can do, she said. Some way to prove Myung-sik didn't know the code was stolen. We're working on it, Ji-won assured her. But unless we can find Do-hyun and get him to confess, or unless we can prove the timeline doesn't match up somehow. Wait, Daphne's mind was racing, pulling up memories. When did Do-hyun supposedly steal this code? Ji-won checked her files. According to BK Technologies, he worked there from March to August 5 years ago. The code in question was developed in July of that year. And when did he bring the project to you? Daphne asked Myung-sik. September. He came to me in September with the initial proposal. Myung-sik frowned. Why? Because I remember something. Daphne pulled out her phone, scrolling frantically. After we first started talking, I got curious about Do-hyun, looked him up online, just casual research. And I remember seeing something about him winning an award for programming innovation. Let me find it. She found the article after a few minutes of searching. Here. Do-hyun won a regional programming competition in June of that year. 5 years ago. The award was for innovative security code development. There's a picture of his winning project. Ji-won leaned forward. Let me see that. Daphne handed over her phone, and the lawyer's eyes widened as she read. This is the same code, or at least the foundation of it, which means Do-hyun developed it before he even worked at BK Technologies, not after. So he didn't steal it from them, Myung-sik said slowly. They stole it from him? Or he sold them early versions of it then, continued developing it on his own after he left. Ji-won was already typing rapidly on her laptop. Either way, this proves the intellectual property originated with Do-hyun, not with BK Technologies, which means their lawsuit is baseless. Hope flared in Daphne's chest. So Myung-sik is in the clear? Not quite yet. We still need to prove Do-hyun gave Myung-sik permission to use and patent the code, and that Myung-sik had no knowledge of any agreements Do-hyun might have had with BK Technologies. Ji-won looked at Myung-sik. Do you have any documentation from when Do-hyun first presented this project? Myung-sik thought for a moment. There should be emails. And, wait, he gave me a signed statement transferring all rights to any code he developed while employed by my company. It was standard procedure for all employees. I'd have to find it in the archives, but it should be there. Find it, Ji-won ordered. Because if you have that signature, combined with this competition win, proving prior art, we can not only dismiss the lawsuit, but potentially countersue BK Technologies for attempted fraud. The next 3 days were a blur of document searches and legal preparations. Daphne barely left Myung-sik's side, helping to sort through old files and making sure he ate and slept. She also made some calls of her own, reaching out to the few contacts she'd developed since starting in facilities management. I need everything you can find on Do-hyun's current whereabouts, she told Myung-sik's head of security, and I need to know if anyone from BK Technologies has been in contact with him recently. Why? Myung-sik asked when she hung up. Because this lawsuit didn't come out of nowhere, Daphne said. The timing is too convenient. We just got married, you're happy, everything's going well, and suddenly this appears? Do-hyun is vindictive enough to want revenge. She was right. 2 days later, security found evidence that Do-hyun had been corresponding with executives at BK Technologies, feeding them information and encouraging them to file the lawsuit. More than that, they found proof that Do-hyun had promised BK Technologies a cut of any settlement money in exchange for their cooperation in his scheme. He's not just trying to destroy me, Myung-sik said, staring at the evidence. He's trying to profit from it. Not anymore, Ji-won said with satisfaction. With this evidence, plus the competition documentation and your employee agreement, we have everything we need. BK Technologies will drop the lawsuit as soon as we show them what we have. They won't want to risk being charged with conspiracy to commit fraud. She was right. Within a week, BK Technologies not only dropped the lawsuit, but issued a public apology. Do-hyun, facing potential criminal charges, fled the country. But Myung-sik didn't pursue him further. I just want him gone, he told Daphne. I want to move forward, not keep looking back at his betrayal. The day after, everything was settled. Myung-sik took Daphne back to the conference room where they'd first really met, where she'd interrupted his meeting and saved his empire without even realizing it. You did it again, he said, pulling her close. Saved me when I needed it most. We saved each other, Daphne corrected. That's how this works now. We're a team. The best team. He pressed a gentle touch to her forehead. I love you. I love how smart you are, how brave. I love that you see things other people miss. I love that you never gave up on me, even when I gave you reasons to." "I love you too," Daphne said. "Now, can we please go home to our kids? I miss them." They picked up the twins from Mrs. Elena's apartment, and Dakota immediately launched into a detailed explanation of everything they'd done while their parents were gone. Chinyonso showed them 6 new drawings, each one more elaborate than the last. That night, all 4 of them piled onto the couch in Myung-sik's apartment. Their apartment now, officially, since Daphne had finally agreed to move in completely. The twins fell asleep during the movie, and Myung-sik carried them one by one to their rooms. "This is nice," he said when he returned, settling back beside Daphne. "Just normal family stuff." "Normal is underrated," Daphne agreed, leaning against him. "I spent so long thinking I needed excitement or drama or something bigger than this. But this is everything." "Everything," Myung-sik echoed, wrapping his arms around her. "And it's ours. No one can take it from us." Outside, the city lights sparkled in the darkness, full of possibility and promise. And inside, surrounded by love and family and the life they'd built together, against all odds, Daphne finally let herself believe it completely. This was real. This was lasting. This was forever. So yeah, if you enjoyed watching this unlikely love story unfold from that first dramatic moment in the conference room to a happily ever after, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more stories that'll make you believe in second chances and unexpected love. I'd really appreciate it, and honestly, it helps me keep creating content like this for you guys. Thanks for watching till the end. Truly means a lot.